Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. We live in a world that everyone feels like they're in competition with one another. And that really rubs off on how we parent our children. So today I just want to remind you that learning is not a race and we need to stop rushing our children. Have you ever found yourself bragging to a friend about how old your child was when they learned how to read, especially if they learned how to read early, or how old they were when they learned how to write their name, or how to say their alphabet, or how to do basic addition problems? I know that I have been guilty of that in the past. And today I really just wanted to go over with you what I have learned as a homeschooling parent of, 11 kids. And all kids are on a different timeline. And I think that is something that is so important that parents understand. We are constantly feeling pressured to compare ourselves to other people, to compete with other people, to always look good in front of other people. And very often we push what we want people to believe about us off onto our children. We see our children as being reflections of how good of parents we are, how good of people we are, even how intelligent we as parents are. And it really can become a pride thing with us, and it can also become a competitive thing. And it's something that we really need to stop doing to our kids, because the fact is that despite all the early childhood education hoopla that you see out there, kids do not need to start learning educational things at 3 and 4 years old. Honestly, better late than early is a really good philosophy to have, because the fact is that a lot of kids at 4 and 5 years old are not ready to be learning the things that are pushed on kids in school nowadays at that age. What they're saying now is that kindergarten today is like first grade was maybe a decade ago. They're pushing things onto kids very early, and they're just not ready to do it. So what ends up happening is we are finding more and more children who are having what they're called learning disabilities. And I've been reading Helping Your Child with Language-Based Learning Disabilities over the past couple of weeks. And I'm not done with it. I'm almost finished with it. But one thing that I have really learned from this book, which it did not specifically say this, but it is something that I have come up with after putting 2 and 2 together, is that I truly believe that the reason there are so many learning disabilities is because kids are being pushed too young. They're being pushed too early, and they're being expected to learn things that are just not developmentally appropriate for everyone. Are there kids who can learn the things that they're pushing at 4 and 5 years old? Yes, absolutely. But not every child is the same. Every child has their own area that they excel in, and every child has their own area in which they have a little bit of difficulty. So those kids who do really well in the areas that school expects them to do, yes, they're going to soar through school. But you're going to have those children who at 4 and 5 years old are just not ready to be learning the things that are being taught in schools. Yet we as parents constantly feel pressure. We want our kids to look good because that makes us look good. Not only that, we want our kids to learn early because we think that it will somehow make a difference when they're older and that it will help them to succeed more. I used to believe these things, but what I have learned is that you can't tell the difference now between my kids who learned how to read at 5 versus how to read at 8. Now that they have both been reading for several years, if you would look at the two of them, you would never be able to tell which one is which. And that is the truth of it. Now, what ends up happening in schools very often is that kids who are not ready to learn certain things, the schools will continue to just keep moving along without them. And so not only are they behind in that one area, but as they are striving to catch up in that one area, very often they are skipping other really important milestones because they are focusing so much on this other goal that they're supposed to be attaining and that they haven't been able to do it. So not only are they behind in this one area, they're going to be behind in a bunch of other areas that are all connected and that are going to, after a while, start adding up more and more and more as the kids get older. You need to let your kids learn on their own timeline. It doesn't matter if your child learns to read at 5 or if they learn to read when they are 8. What is important is that they learn to read in general. That is the goal, that your kids learn to read, that they become literate. And now I understand that this can be really hard for kids who are in school and who are behind, because the schools are not going to wait for them. But what I see happening is that even a lot of homeschoolers are starting to get this idea that their 4 and 5-year-olds need to start working on reading, and they're starting to get frustrated if their kids don't want to sit to learn, or if they're not picking up on their lessons, or if they don't like doing the phonics lessons or the reading lessons. And what I want to say to you as one homeschool parent, to probably others who are watching me right now, is that you don't have to follow that model. One of the best things that we as homeschooling parents have to offer our kids is that we can give them an individualized education. We can make their education fit them. And one of the best ways that you can help your kids to not end up having these long-term learning disabilities is by just letting them learn things when they are ready to do it. Now, am I saying that kids will never have learning disabilities if you let them learn on their own pace? Well, no, absolutely not. But you're not going to see it in the numbers that you see it nowadays. Pushing kids to learn at an early age is really, really detrimental, because it has long-term effects, not only on their academics, but on their self-esteem, because these kids grow up as they're in school thinking that there is something wrong with them, thinking that they're stupid. And you know what? Your kids don't have to feel that way. And you know, the more that I read this book, I honestly keep telling myself, because this book actually addresses both homeschooling parents and parents who are in school. And as I'm reading this book, I just keep thinking to myself, oh my gosh, if these parents would just homeschool their kids, they could avoid so many of the pitfalls that are happening with the kids that they're talking about in this book, because there are examples. And you know, if you are a homeschooling parent, that is really what I want to encourage you about today. Stop trying to follow the school timeline. Stop trying to do what everyone else is doing. You know, don't let this be a pride thing. Don't even let it be a fear thing. Very often fear, you know, comes into play, because you start to think, well, if my child isn't doing this at a certain age, they're going to be affected down the line and they're not going to succeed. That's not true. Now, as I mentioned in another video, that very often you will hear people talking about how great the school system is in Finland. In Finland, kids don't start school until they're 7. Keep that in mind. They don't start school until they're 7. And you know what? That gives the kids there time to grow into the developmental stages that they're going to be needing to learn key concepts, to learn abstract thinking. A lot of kids, you know, who are 4 and 5 years old, they're not ready for the abstract thinking that comes with, you know, learning to read and doing math. You need to just allow your kids to be who they are, and without the pressure of thinking that they're behind, without the pressure of your kids thinking that there is something wrong with them or that they're not working quickly enough, they're going to flourish, and they are going to they are going to love learning all the more. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave a comment on Instagram, because YouTube still has my comments disabled, and I think they always will be. So I will leave a link in the description box for my Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page and see what rewards I have for my patrons there, I will also leave that link below. And I hope you have a great day.